Hello, I'm back and welcome back and thanks for coming back. I wanted to speak a little bit now about the isolation that often comes, or at least the isolation that came very obviously when I started to ascend or become enlightened, when my chakras started opening. I already felt out of place my entire life. So let me take these off because there's a little bit of glare happening and I don't want it to be too distracting. I experienced feelings of just being really different my whole life. As a girl, I always had interests in things that were more male. And I don't think that has too much to do with what the topic of this video is, except for maybe that it's said that things are more asexual on the astral plane. That's the only kind of consideration that I can really think of. But, just having different interests than the people that were around me, I had a completely different mode of thinking, and I still do. I have a completely different way of seeing things. And to me, it makes a lot of sense. And to other people, it makes no sense. And oftentimes people laugh at me for the way I describe things or see them. And that may have something to do with being on the path to enlightenment when I was younger or when I was growing up or through my life and I didn't realize it. But one thing I'll say about that now is don't let other people's laughter at you make you uncomfortable or feel bad, because usually it's their discomfort with not being able to keep up with you very well that makes them laugh that way. Oftentimes I see energy is redirected at the person when the person who's emitting it feels inferior or insignificant, because I'm not that kind of person. So no matter how far out someone seems to be or how far advanced they are compared to me or how much more intelligent or having a higher IQ, I always try to keep up. And if I can't keep up, I don't laugh at them. So I know it's possible for people not to get laughed at. Just don't let them make you feel bad. And I don't say that to say that I'm some scholar or some super far advanced creature or something like that. It's just something that I've known or I've noticed throughout my life, and I've been able to kind of put it into words what I was experiencing. I was able to come to a conclusion about what I was experiencing, maybe through age or experience or something like that. But I've noticed it enough from enough people of enough varieties, age, gender, demographic, whatever you want to call race or nationality. I've noticed it, and I've experienced it myself when someone's so smart and I'm like, whoa, what did you just say? Or they put stuff in a way that I just can't keep up with. I've had that feeling too. And so I've taken into account what feelings I felt when those things were happening to me. And then I compared them when I noticed that they were happening with other people. And then I compared the two outcomes. And what I do in life in general is take that same approach. I take my lifetime and things that I can remember within it, and then I take the things that are similar, and then I kind of assess them case by case together over time, and then I form like a conclusion about what the overall experience was like. And so this is one of those types of situations. So don't let that make you feel bad. It's just one of those things, and it's kind of like, I don't know, I was going to say like those super smart, like scholar kids that are just way beyond it in school. They may be getting teased because they're so different, but this person can like divide the square root of pi by the distance that the sun is from, you know, Ecuador divided by the distance between the sun and Pluto and give you like a number that is to the millimeter. But that same kid is getting laughed at by John who eats his own shit when nobody's watching. It's one of those types of situations. So just don't let John bother you, because there's a lot of Johns in the world. No offense to anybody named John who has like any sense. So when it comes to enlightenment, the feeling you're going to get is even more isolating, because there are people who are enlightened. And when I say enlightened, I mean a general sense of the word. People who are psychic or telepathic or spiritually open or spiritually aware, or have whatever sense it is that they have that's unique to them and then also unique to the general population of the world. Those people exist, and there are communities of people who exist like that. I'm kind of like fresh in the game because I've experienced these communities of people, but not tangibly. I've only experienced them online. So my advice can only go as far as what my experience has been. I wanted my hair to be back over here. Sorry. But, you know, I've experienced these people online, and that's given me courage, and more understanding. I've been able to hear different people's experiences, how they achieved these different levels or these different experiences or these different gifts and whatever, you know, because I'm talking about everything very generally. I'll get into what I'm more about more specifically later in time. I'm still even getting to a point where I'm comfortable with letting people know what my gifts are and what they're like. I watch different YouTube channels. You know, I started researching twin flames when a good friend of mine was researching twin flames, and she was telling me about, you know, what she was finding, and because she had a sense of her twin flame, and so she was pursuing that knowledge. So, you know, when she was doing that, it led me to do more research, and so that led me to the Golden Ray Twin Flames channel here on YouTube, or they are on YouTube if you're watching this video somewhere else. And, you know, I really enjoy their channel. I don't agree with everything that everybody says everywhere, but for the most part, I just look at that as it's a different of opinions, or a different way of interpreting the same things, or different words being used to describe the same thing, or words having the same definitions, or being just applied by different people in different ways. So I look at it more, not just that channel, but other channels and the things that people speak about on them, on these different channels, is I look for the general idea so I can kind of use my same formula of applying it to what I might learn next, or applying it to what I've experienced or am experiencing or wanting to experience or trying to learn about, or that I heard about that's just such a far off notion. And, you know, I just kind of incorporate everything, and I look at everything very openly, and I never say that something's wrong. I never look at something like, oh, that's not true, that can't be true. I look at it like, as far as I'll go is, that's kind of out there. I wonder. And then I just try to think about the things that could work for what they're talking about, no matter how far gone it may be. I don't look at anything as being just far gone. Now, if someone's telling me this is the way that it is, and this, I'm looking at that person more like, I wish your mode of delivery was just a little bit different, but I get where you're coming from, and that's just your personality. So, Wisdom from North is another channel that I really like. Yannicka, I don't know her personally. I'm saying her first name like, oh, me and Yannicka go way back. No, I don't know her, but I really enjoy her interviews and, the different people, because sometimes there's some topics that I've never even like thought of, Who else? There's another couple here. There's a couple other twin flame couples. A couple other twin, yeah. Uh, there's like two different channels. I forget what their names are, but I'm sure you can find, the people that seem well suited to you. But seeing couples that are speaking about their relationship together not only describes a twin flame relationship, but explains like a telepathic relationship between people and people who aren't afraid of, talking about it. And that's one of the support kind of systems that I've discovered just with this whole realm, is that seeing other people who aren't afraid, or seeing other people who are, going through things and experiencing them and hearing about what their experiences are like, it's helpful in getting your own kind of confidence. So that's kind of like what my advice is like now, is finding those types of things, reading articles that are kind of in tune with what you're kind of looking for or experiencing. That's the kind of community that I'm part of now, is like a very broken, not broken like in the sense of was once one and then is now not, or is now pieces. It's more like different branches of the same mind framed people that are spread across different realms. I guess not really realms, but different branches of subject, all digitally. Put that together, and basically it's just everything I found on the web that supports something that I'm interested in or experiencing in some way. And then I read comments and I comment and I try to say things and I try to make these videos, and that's my contribution. In time, I'd like to live together with people who are like me, or wanting to, or just people who are open, people who aren't judgmental. And I guess maybe that's everybody's dream, like in life, just to live in a world that's kind of like that. But I'm more looking for a specific representation of something like that, that we can all just be together about in some way, and accepting, so, but as far as like another kind of isolation, since this video is about isolating or feeling isolated and being isolated, I have also felt very isolated from my family. I've always been the black sheep. I always was different. I always was, like more of the one that partied, or the one that stayed out late, or the one that got in trouble at school. And it was only my sister and I. So, but in time, it turned out my family was more of the black sheep than I was, because I was always the one that was kind of too open about things, too, just upfront, versus, not being upfront. And it's not like they're not upfront people. It's just I was always more like an open book. And in life, I've always had a seemingly more difficult time with the way that I approach things. But then on the other side, I can see how I've had an easier time, because I feel like my experiences are more authentic. And it's not to judge what their experiences are, but I can see more clearly now, what they're experiencing is kind of, excuse me, like a watered down version of what's happening. But the isolating part is that I can't talk to them about what I'm seeing. And they're actually telling me about the way I should be doing things. And they're kind of like that kid John John. And I'm not saying they're as far gone as John John is, like I mentioned John John earlier in the video, but they're not coming from a place of a perspective that I agree with, like, at all. And in fact, I feel like my perspective could be really helpful for them in a lot of ways. And they're not the types that I could talk to. They all have similar traits. And I have a lot of faults of my own, of course. But with the faults that they have, I see that their faults are more problematic than my own. And that could just be me being very one-sided and one-dimensional in my thinking. But I just really feel like that basic mode of protocol isn't being met. And it's coming adversely to me. In judgment about things I choose to do, places I choose to move, people I see as not being ones that should be hung around, energy that is put towards things that I don't think should be put towards. I kind of blended two things because the first half was more about me. The first half is that I get a lot of shit about what I've chosen to do with my life or what I choose to put my time to. And it's very bizarre. I am very much a school kind of person, and I enjoy studying. And I'm an artist, fine art, and things like that. And that's been rejected. Even linguistics, studying languages, and, moving to other countries, like, it's like, it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Like, telling that you're making huge mistakes for leaving jobs and being spoken to like you're a kid, where it's kind of like, this kid knows a little bit more about what's happening than you do, and you're being more immature because you're refusing to listen, and having that kind of constant bombardment for almost an entire lifetime, and always being seen as being wrong. And it's not as if I'm not open to what their suggestions are. It's just that you have a world full of people like this that feel like they're right about everything, that are themselves getting everything wrong. And that's the isolation that I'm really, really, really the most excited about addressing today, because it is, I think, the most difficult kind of isolation to have to deal with. It even supersedes loneliness. Loneliness is a close second. But this kind of isolation, when you have John John's telling you that you're fucking up, where John John has, his fingers straight up his ass and then is licking it as he's telling you about this. And you're like, oh, come on, man. Like, I'm getting insulted and you're doing that right in front of me. I mean, And if John John likes doing that, that's a whole different situation. But it's kind of like the tactlessness that comes along with people who kind of have this mentality. That's what I'm trying to illustrate by this very vivid description and very vivid analogy. So be prepared. You're Probably going to get a little bit more of that, or maybe not, because you may blend better into society. You might blend into society better than I do. Like I do, but I'm always that one that's seen as like a hippie or free spirit, or sometimes I'll get old soul, and that's a little bit better. But the other ones, it's kind of like Willie Nelson, or like, you know, that lady that wears drapey clothes with lots of print on it and jewelry that makes a lot of noise, and she's always just like, you know, and it's just kind of like that's cool and stuff, you know, but it's kind of like that image that people have in their head, and they kind of assign it to you, and you're like, all right, Hollywood strikes again. Let's do it, you know. So I don't know. It's not totally bad. It's just when you're like us, when you're like me, it just gets to a point where you wish you had more people like me. And what I mean by like me is that I'm social and I love talking about these things. I like talking about everything, but I also like talking to people in a way that I feel safe, where I won't be judged. I won't be told that I'm wrong, unless I just am wrong, and then we can talk about it. But to be spoken at and to, and you're wrong, and I'm right, and I'm going to cut you off now. And, you know, and then it's just kind of like you sit back and you're like, because there's nothing else for you to say. I'd rather be here and say, oh, okay. Oh, man, yeah, I was feeling that same thing. Wow. Oh, let me tell you about this. And they listen. And then they're like, oh, yeah. Or, you know, no, I don't agree with that so much. Oh, really? Why? And I listen. Do you see what I'm saying? Like that kind of thing is really fun for me, no matter what the subject is. And then when you get to a subject like this, most of the time you're going to be seen as you're crazy. Or like, oh, okay. You know, even if you get into stuff that I'm really not that deep into, at least not yet, time travel, extraterrestrial beings, other planetary systems, then you're gonna get more of those people. You're more prone to getting hit with more of those laughs from John. So I hope by my sharing my experiences with these things has been helpful. And I hope that I've been able to illustrate some of the kinds of people and some of the reactions that are most common. And I hope that this is good preparation for when you're ready to speak more openly about things, or maybe not, because a lot of stuff like this can't be given to anybody or just anybody. I just hope that this video served a good purpose for anybody that needed whatever purpose it served for them. So I don't have a very distinct point, but I do have a point. So I'll be looking forward to the next video. Bye.